Welcome to Bold Voices, a production of the Community Foundation of Broward, where we explore Broward's biggest issues, get to know some of the people and organizations creating a bold impact in our community, and take a deeper dive into the world of local philanthropy with the experts at the Community Foundation of Broward. And now, it's time to be bold.
Today, we're looking at a core issue that the Community Foundation of Broward is focused on. It's a segment of giving called Eco Broward, and the foundation's goal is to make Broward a more livable, resilient, and sustainable place to call home by taking local actions to protect our natural areas and make our community more resilient to climate change. To do this, they are partnering with local nonprofits and organizations that specialize in environmental issues. And this includes understanding Broward County's ecosystem, what makes it work, what causes problems, and where there are problems, how can we fix them? One of the foundation's key partners in sustaining the health of our environment is the Museum of Discovery and Science, and I am delighted to welcome the president and CEO of MODS, Joe Cox. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
It is great to have you on Bold Voices, the Museum of Discovery and Science in downtown Fort Lauderdale. I call it one of Broward County's sweet treasures, an instant hit when it opened in 1976. When did you join the museum as president and CEO?
So I came on board in February of 2018. I had previously been in Massachusetts. I was heading up the Ecotarium Museum of Science and Nature.
What was your vision for the future of MODS?
I was thinking through what would the strategic plan be for this institution. So we kicked off our strategic planning process not long after I got here, and we wanted to find out what the community was looking for and how we could best serve the community. We wanted to hear from our visitors, from people who don't visit, from our partners, social service agencies that we work with. Organizations like the Community Foundation obviously played a big role. And in January of 2020, we rolled out our strategic plan and knew exactly where we were going for the next 5 years. Clearly, we didn't have a global pandemic 2 years into the plan, but what we did have was 4 educational pillars. And so we are focusing on environmental sustainability, early childhood education, health and wellness, and physical science.
Why those 4?
So we looked at what the institution had been doing previously, and early childhood education had been critically important when the museum first opened as the Discovery Center. As we evolved into a science center, that was still part of what we did, but it really wasn't a major focus. But when we started talking to the community and looking at the demographic shifts happening in downtown Fort Lauderdale, where the number of families is growing so quickly, the number of families with children under the age of 6 is growing so quickly. And we looked at our own audience. So 60% of the families who visit us have a child in their family under the age of 6. So we knew that all of that meant we really had to put a stronger focus on early childhood ed. We had done environmental education since the first time one of our naturalists at the Discovery Center held an iguana and talked about reptiles.
Long before the iguanas were falling from trees.
Exactly. Environmental ed had been something that, was very core to who we were. But we wanted to make a shift to environmental sustainability because what that does is really talks about empowering the community to make a difference. So you're not just educating, you're not just preaching from the stage, but you're coaching from the side. And so you're really working to build a community where sustainability is important and people are going out on beach cleanups, are being involved in making decisions, are calling their elected officials. Health and wellness, we have done health as one of our focus areas for a long time. We work very closely with organizations like Broward Health, Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, and we really wanted to work to reflect what hospitals are doing. Health is now about wellness. It's about preventative care. It's about your mind, your body, mental health. And so we wanted to really kind of shift to there. And then the last one is physical science. And that's really all of the other stuff that we do, from aviation and physics and blowing things up in our big kaboom show. There's lots of blowing things up in science museums, very safely, very carefully.
Right.
But,
and the kids love it.
Exactly. So that's all of the other stuff.
You're currently implementing this plan. So what are you doing and how are you achieving the goals?
Just before the pandemic, we had focused on physical science, and we had wrapped up a very quick capital campaign to renovate our aviation gallery, and we built a maker space within the aviation gallery. So we knew that physical science had just had a big improvement. So the other three areas, environmental sustainability, early childhood education, and health and wellness, were up next. So early childhood education, we are under construction right now on a brand new 5,000 square foot early childhood exhibit called the Discovery Spot. This is a reimagining, essentially building a children's museum within the Science Center. And it will be opening this summer, probably July or August. Then the second piece is our health and wellness exhibit. So we're working very closely with our friends at Broward Health, updating our health exhibit over the next year and a half, 2 years. But then the major exhibit beyond that is going to be our new resilience exhibit.
I understand that this is really where your partnership with the Community Foundation of Broward came in and facilitated your forward movement with that.
So, as you know, the Community Foundation has had a very strong focus on the environment for a long time. Eco Broward was their big initiative around really supporting, making change, and getting people to be involved in the environment, and supported a lot of organizations. What we're doing with the Community Foundation is we've created the Hub for Resilience Education. I'm a big believer in community partnerships. So the Hub for Resilience Education has brought together to date over 30 different partners. The partners range from huge, the Lego Foundation, NOAA, Broward County Public Schools, to small, really powerful, really important local nonprofits like Youth Environmental Alliance, to cultural institutions like Flamingo Gardens, university partners, FAU, FIU, and they've all come together and they're providing all of their input, all of their resources as to what our programs and what our exhibit that we're developing should be. So the ultimate idea is that the museum becomes a one-stop shop for people who want to get involved in making a difference and learning how we can all work together to make Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, South Florida resilient to the impacts of climate change.
And the fact that you're incorporating, engaging the public, not just to learn, but to be proactive, is really critical. And it's the same thing that you've done with the partnerships, where you're not competitive with other nonprofits, you're collaborating, and that's when you get all those minds working together and great things come of that.
It's been incredibly exciting because we've now hired a internationally recognized design team, Cambridge 7 Associates. They've really made environmental sustainability their area of focus. We're now looking at how to make this new exhibit that we're developing one of the greenest museum exhibits ever made.
I understand you've even changed the water bottles. They're no longer bottles.
Correct. We now have aluminium water cans. We've got water fill stations, and we're starting the process now to really do a deep institutional assessment of all of our processes. 2 years ago now, we planted a tropical food forest in our science park. So we've got bananas and mango and Cuban oregano growing out in our science park so that when we open this exhibit, we'll be able to talk about tropical foods and food forests and food justice and the impacts of climate change on food.
We hear so much about climate change, and the verbiage keeps changing as well. You don't say global warming. A lot of people don't want to hear that phrase. So, okay, climate change. Then we talk about sustainability and resilience. So the evolution of the words and the language, what do you think is behind that?
It's fascinating. One of the exhibits that we have at the museum is our Prehistoric Florida exhibit. For anyone who's visited the museum, it's the exhibit that's anchored by our life-size 60-foot megalodon shark, the biggest shark that ever lived. And in the exhibit, we talk about geological climate change and the difference between geological climate change, because we know climate has changed over time. You only have to look at prehistoric sea level. Florida 17,000 years ago was twice the size that it is today. because during the Ice Age, all of the water was caught up in ice. Virginia, Atlanta were under ice caps. So all of that ice came from the ocean. So if the water's not in the ocean and it's in the ice, the sea level drops. And we know that these things geologically happen over time. What we're looking at in this exhibit and in all of our programming is we're beyond saying who caused this. Is it human? Is it geological? Now, we know that this is very different to any geological climate change. This does not follow the patterns. We can look at the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. We know where we are now. Our community knows that we have to make sure that the issue now is looking for solutions. And this exhibit is about optimism. It's about hope. It's upbeat and it's inspiring.
In addition to inspiring by what you're presenting in the Hub for Resilience Education, how can you inspire people to actually take steps and show them that they can be part of our future?
People want to make a difference, but they don't know how. They want to be given very clear direction. This is where the Community Foundation partners come in and our Hub for Resilience Education partners come in. So in the exhibit, imagine if there's a digital sign-up sheet of sorts where you want to help. Well, the Youth Environmental Alliance has this beach cleanup happening next Tuesday at 2:00 at this location. Sign up here. Flamingo Gardens are pulling out invasive exotic species of plants at Flamingo Gardens next Saturday morning. Sign up. There's this bill going through legislature and it needs support. Email your elected officials here. So people will have the opportunity to really get engaged and be a part of an active project that's happening thanks to the Community Foundation support. And one of the most exciting parts of the environmental sustainability program is 2 years ago when we partnered with the Community Foundation. We launched our Everglades Eco Explorers. And this is a year-round paid internship for high school students. And this year we have 53 who have spent the last year with us. They're going to be graduating soon. They spend 20 hours a month as staff at the museum. And so we immerse them in the world of environmental sustainability because this becomes a workforce development program.
Yes, they're going to be the scientists of our future. And so now you're impacting generations forward, which is one of the key guiding values of the Community Foundation of Broward, is we're paying it forward in perpetuity. It's not just about what we're doing now, but how is what we do now going to make the future better, ongoing. How has having the support of the Community Foundation of Broward impacted your ability to move forward with Broward's Hub for Resilience Education?
No, we're so grateful to the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation of Broward's been involved with the museum practically since day one. And the Community Foundation doesn't just provide funding. They really provide the resources, the insight, the support. You know, they're there for questions. They're there with ideas, suggestions. And so we really do see them as a partner in this. When we went to them with the idea for the Hub for Resilience Education, having the Community Foundation come on was really that good housekeeping seal of approval. You know, oh, the Community Foundation of Broward is involved with this? Okay, this isn't just, Joe's crazy idea.
They legitimize you.
This has some legitimacy.
Yeah.
And so now we've got 30 partners. So if I'm talking to NOAA, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. The other day, we're having a conversation with someone involved at the UN doing environmental work. This has really become now a big initiative. The museum is aligned now with 9 other museums nationwide. We received a national leadership grant through the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and MODS was written into the grant. So these 9 museums are now spending 2 years working on developing what will hopefully become a national framework for teaching environmental sustainability, being able to talk about resilience and climate change to children under the age of 8, because that's a really hard topic to talk to children about.
Yeah, but when you invest that time in their minds that young, it becomes part of their core. And I really feel like there's this synergy between you creating Broward's hub for resilience education and the Community Foundation of Broward being Broward's hub for creating Broward's future and sustaining it. You know, the hub of philanthropy in Broward County. That. Yeah. So can you provide guidance to other nonprofits on how they can engage with and seek support from the Community Foundation of Broward on issues of concern to them?
You know, I think one of the easiest things is to pick up the phone and call. We've always been able to ask questions, ask for advice, and the Community Foundation of Broward has such a wealth of resources online, but, you know, nothing's better than having that personal conversation, because they're always offering classes and workshops to really try and build the strength of the nonprofit community here in Broward County. So I would just say, pick up the phone and ask for advice.
And you can also go to the website, cfbroward.org. And of course, for all of the programs, you're so well known for your beach cleanups, the turtle walks at night during turtle birthing season, the special weekends for children, mods.org. You do have some special days throughout the year that I want to let the listeners know about when there's free admission and programs for certain nonprofits.
We do. We believe that access to the museum is really, really important. And we want everyone who grows up in Broward County to look at MODS and say, that's my museum. That's my science museum. That's my children's museum. That's the place where I had this wow experience. So for a number of programs, we offer free and reduced admission. We work with the Leo Goodwin Foundation, who every year support free admission for almost 30 different social service agencies here in Broward County that allow them to bring their children or families to the museum at no cost anytime they want. The other program, Museums for All, is a national program that is funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Service and the Association of Children's Museum nationally, but each institution locally funds it. So we have a wonderful array of supporters who allow us to offer this program where anyone with an EBT card, a SNAP benefits card, can visit the museum anytime. No questions asked, just show your card and bring up to 3 people with you for $2 a person. Since we started offering this program, it's now expanded, and there are actually over a dozen museums here in Broward County who are now offering this program to really make sure that Broward's cultural institutions are as accessible as possible to the entire community.
It's a wonderful thing. You know, we've talked a lot about what the Community Foundation of Broward has done to support you. We've talked about what you've done to help the community. What can the community do to be their individual community foundation for you? How can they help Museum of Discovery and Science?
One of the best ways that people can show their support for the museum, and it comes with a wonderful array of perks, is by becoming a member. Not only do you show your support, help make the museum as accessible as possible, help us build great new exhibits, bring new offerings, new events to town, but of course you get free admission year-round, and we have all kinds of wonderful reciprocity programs where, whether it's a science center or a children's museum, your membership gets you free or reduced admission to hundreds of other museums around the country. So we'd really encourage people to consider having a membership. It pays for itself in 2 visits. And for anyone who's got a child under the age of 6, the Discovery Spot coming this summer is going to be spectacular.
And finally, do you have any words of wisdom or inspiration that you can share with our listeners about their power to create positive change in our community and for the planet at large?
You know, I think each of us is personally responsible for making a difference. You can look at the entire issues and think, how can I make a difference? There are so many small ways that each of us can help. And whether it's thinking about your food choices, whether it's thinking about whether you're going to walk or drive that extra 50 feet to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many of us on this planet that if each one of us make a small decision, think about what you're doing each and every day. And the biggest thing, we used to talk about reduce, reuse, recycle. One of the things that I've been focusing on and really thinking about is the fourth one, which is refuse. Do you really need that new thing? Do you really need one more thing to stuff into a cupboard? How can you repurpose? How can you reuse?
I love that. Refuse. Reduce, reuse, recycle, refuse. Thank you. Joe Cox, President and CEO of the Museum of Discovery and Science, downtown Fort Lauderdale, mods.org. And of course, if you're interested in finding out more about the foundation, our website is cfbroward.org. Thank you so much, Joe. It's been a delight.
Thank you so much. This really has been wonderful. And the Community Foundation of Broward is so supportive, not just of us, but of so many wonderful nonprofits in town. So they really do a spectacular job.
Before we close out Bold Voices for the day, we're going to spend a moment in Kirk's Corner. Kirk Engelhardt is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the Community Foundation of Broward. He knows so much about this organization and about the people who are legacy donors and community builders. Joe Cox today with the Museum of Discovery and Science. Fascinating conversation.
Yes, and a big issue, right? Environment. How do you tackle the environment and all of the issues related to it? And that's what we hear a lot from donors who walk in the door here at the foundation. Not just environment, but a lot of the issues they care about are huge.
Right.
How do I have an impact? Little old me with the money that I'm going to give. How am I going to change things? Well, there's a couple of ways that we help people do that. Number one, we know all of the organizations in the community that are working in particular areas on particular issues. We know who's doing great work, and we can certainly help you help them so that you're changing lives or changing the issue and making a big difference that way. The second way is that we can introduce you to individuals who are like-minded philanthropists, and think of the impact you can have when you're pairing up with 2, 3, 4, or more other people and pooling your resources to have a massive impact on something way greater than you could have all by yourself.
Absolutely.
So if you want to learn more about that, visit our website at cfbroward.org. We'd love to chat.
And while you're there, you can join our email list so that you'll always know when there are classes coming up, grant opportunities, and new episodes of Bold Voices.
Thank you for listening to Bold Voices. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and hope you'll be inspired to join us in creating a better Broward for all. If you'd like more information, visit us online at cfbroward.org, and remember to always be bold.